As many of you know, I have many controversial guests, so that comes at a cost of being demonetized everywhere. So if you want to support the program, go to fightbackpodcast.com, and I have all kinds of merch on there, whether it's jiu-jitsu, fighting, political, and other accessories. And thanks for the support. Hey, I'm here with Ryan Dawson, OG historian, researcher. I don't know exactly how to introduce you, but it's interesting. We talked maybe 2.5 years ago. We talked on the phone, and you were telling me all kinds of things that were like kind of mind blowing at the time. But I've been kind of going down the rabbit hole, and I think everything you told me was correct. So you were early in the game. What first made
That was
you?
just when I got reinstated to Twitter and could actually reach people again.
Yeah, being
'Cause I've
banned
been
is
banned
tough.
for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't realize that it takes you away from being able to connect with people. Being pulled off things like Twitter, and you were banned from YouTube. You were banned from pretty much everything, right?
I got banned on MySpace. I got banned on AOL.
The only man banned on MySpace.
I was banned in 2005. I got banned on YouTube in 2008. I had another channel. That one got banned and brought back again 4 times, and then it got banned a 5th time. Because it used to be if ever I could do appeals and get a person to look at it, I never broke any rules. But the final time, they didn't even give me strikes or a way to appeal. They just said terminated, and that's that. And it's because of this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very aware of what it is. Things are changing, but it's like, again, you never know when they start banning us again. I've been demonetized and debadged on X. I mean, you could see they're definitely.
That's a great shirt you're wearing, by the way.
Thank you. I got it
He
on
packaged it for you.
Yeah.
You want to see mine? I think you'd have to flip it, but
fuck Israel. I like your shirt too. Yeah, got these on my store. Jake Shields podcast. Since I'm demonetized from everything, so gotta fund the podcast. I mean, you've obviously been demonetized from everything as well, long before me. First question is, what made you first start going down the rabbit hole of questioning things?
First of all, I'm happy to be talking to my second favorite vegetarian.
I can guess who your favorite is.
Da Vinci. Yeah.
Good. That was what I was thinking.
Oh, I know. What were you thinking? No.
Da Vinci.
Yeah. I really admire Leonardo da Vinci. I think him and Archimedes are like my favorite polymaths. But what started me, I'm not sure I've always been this way. I remember on a 5th grade field trip, I got to meet Walter Beeman Jones. And so that was Walter Jones's dad. Walter Jones was the congressman of North Carolina that did the Freedom Prize stuff. And I got to talk to him too, and he listened. He did a complete 180. He started opposing the wars. He was good on everything. He was like Thomas Massey back then. One of the only people that would actually go against the grind was Massey, Ron Paul, and Jones. I met his father, and the other 10-year-olds were asking 10-year-old questions, and he asked me what I thought of government. And I went on this long rant at how we need a line item veto to cut pork out of bills, and talked about beach erosion in North Carolina. And he really listened and was going to act on it. And he died 2 weeks later.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, in office. And his son died in office too.
Under suspicious manners or no?
No, just old. And I think Junior might have had cancer or something. I don't know.
Damn.
But it wasn't like... You do have to ask because,
No, exactly. That's why I don't know what you're talking about. I know some other people we're going to talk about today, I think, do have some suspicious manners. I think we're going to talk about, spend a little more time talking about, like, what got you into, like, I know some people don't like you, but no one's ever criticized your research. Everyone always go like, oh, the guy does great research.
Well, I don't know they don't know me, so they don't really have a right to dislike or like me either. Like, the research is all you should really concern yourself with.
Yeah, I said we don't know each other real well, but I've always got along with you great and had no issues. I always judge people off my individual.
I'm pretty mean to idiots, and so that does like butt some heads, because I wasn't always. I was very patient at first, but it gets to the point where, like, if someone's still denying airplanes on 9/11, I want to throw them out a window. Like, it's just, we're so far in our own end zone when people saying stupid stuff like that. And it's okay to get something wrong, and maybe you got lied to, whatever, but when someone corrects you, then you have to alter. Like, you stop saying that dumb stuff, and they don't, because they're egotistical. And people have a really hard time admitting they're wrong.
It's hard to admit you're wrong. No, it's true, you know. But when I admit I'm wrong, I go, fuck, I got to step back and admit it. No one likes to admit they're wrong, but it's important that you do, that you acknowledge you made the mistake and move on. Do you feel like you could maybe reach more people, though, if you were a little less of a prick to some of them, or do you think it's not really?
Well, I'm just trying to reach the right people. I just feel like room temperature IQ people don't matter. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not trying to be popular.
So you're more concerned about getting your work out to other people that could spread
it
to
the retards. If I wanted to be popular, I wouldn't do this, you know.
Definitely not. Or rich. You know, you're not getting rich or popular.
Yeah, if I wanted money, I would just do the opposite. I'd be a complete Zionist like Beneside Shapiro. And I know all the right things to say, but on principle, I'm not going to do that. You know, and morons are going to get mad, and I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know how to not be offensive to them. Because what I'm going to say is it disagrees with them. Too bad. But I can back mine up with forensic evidence, and like I got receipts, and they know it.
Yeah, and obviously I haven't looked at all your research, but I've never seen you put anything out that's wrong. And for me, I'm not an independent researcher. I steal stuff from people like you, but it's like, of course I make mistakes sometimes.
Your Twitter
but I correct
is
them.
Fire.
Thank you, Ryan.
It's cause I go as Jake Shields say, like, oh yeah.
I like to
and
push.
It takes a nutsack to do that, because I don't know, you're kind of a celebrity. I mean, you were in Strikeforce, UFC, all that. So you have a reputation to lose, you know, and you're like, no fucks given. So.
No, I just felt it was too important to speak my mind. I always avoided politics, but then it wasn't the Israel thing. It was when COVID hit that I was first like, this is insane. I can't just go along with this. I just retired. I was locked in a house. I had no work, and I couldn't handle it. Then BLM hit, and they're saying it was okay for them to go out and riot. And I'm like, all right, this is enough. I grabbed my Twitter.
Open borders with no mask.
Yeah, I started sending out tweets.
I had backstage passes to WrestleMania for me and my son. Mm-hmm. The last one with The Undertaker, by the way. And COVID hit, and they canceled it. And they canceled flights, too. And I will never forgive Fauci for that alone. But what they did to the world, making all these children mask up. I just evil, can't. Yeah. You ever heard of COVID fatigue? Mm-hmm. I have it. Like, it's like, I completely agree. I'm against the hysteria. I'm against taking the boosters, but I don't want to talk about it. Like, I get like ill. Because it enrages me that people are watching these dummies walk around with their face diaper and knowing what I know, and we have to do something.
It completely radicalized me.
That was it for me, man. Yeah. I can't even talk about it.
No, I just got so enraged. I was living in San Francisco. That's probably the worst fucking place in the world to be. These clowns with these stupid things on their face, and they're acting like I was the weirdo for not wearing it. It's like, no, you are the fucking weirdos. And like everyone in San Francisco went along with, like everyone other than the crackheads. And like that's when I left San Francisco. I'm like, I can't be around these fucking morons. So I can understand about what you're talking about.
Eddie Bravo made a point like that. He said he was like, well, I don't know, but going to, I guess, his main gym and back, he'd see the same homeless people every day, and he's like, they weren't dropping dead. Yep. They weren't wearing masks.
Well, me and Eddie had a conversation. Actually, it's good you mentioned Eddie, because we jiu-jitsu trainers. There's always people getting serious sicknesses every year that disappear. There was not more people getting sick through COVID. It just wasn't. There wasn't more serious sicknesses. It was the same as always. And you same thing in the homeless people there. But we could see, and also not a single person that trained jiu-jitsu that I know of died of. And there's like millions of people that train jiu-jitsu. Not one fucking death out of healthy people. That shows you right there. It's all bullshit.
And you're about as close contact as you can get.
Oh, you're literally, and it's everything you're not supposed to do. You're breathing in each other's face. You're blowing out oxygen. I remember I was illegally running.
Just as long as you don't make eye contact. Mm-hmm. It's the joke, right?
Yeah, right? Sport can look a little gay. But how are you, like, professional researcher, or you just started figuring shit out on your own? Because some of the stuff you came up with is just pretty crazy.
I put myself on level expert. I'm not paid to do it or anything, but like, for example, in the JAS report, the Joint Inquiry Senate Investigation into the terrorist attacks of September 11th from the Senate, there was a 28-page consecutive redaction. Mm-hmm. There were a lot more redactions than that, but there were 28 pages in a row of just whiteout. And everyone was pushing, including myself, get these released. Well, through my research, I dug in and got all the information that was on those 28 pages and put it in films and interviews and so on and so on. And then it finally got released. and it was exactly everything I said.
How'd you get that?
So I think it shows some research skill. And then people are all asking about the Epstein list, which I have and put out. And it just, I don't know. They're like, authoritarians need the guy on TV to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was telling them, and I've got a track record of like, I said that publicly. I put it on every medium that was available to me. I was proven correct. And they still, I don't know, some people don't want to listen.
Yeah, instead they want to ban you. Well, I use you as an example of, the media, because I use the film, sorry, I can't remember the name right now, Deception of, what's your 9/11 film?
War by Deception.
War by Deception. They made Fahrenheit 9/11. That was pushed by Weinstein. That was the biggest documentary of all time. It was heavily pushed. That was showing connections that Saudi Arabia had with 9/11. You made a film showing the Israeli connections, exactly. So you show the Israeli connections.
I said both. I got the Saudi and the Israeli connections, but... to be fair, War by Deception was something I made by myself on Windows Movie Maker, like a slideshow. But the information, like, whatever, you could listen to it even and get a lot out of it. I'm just made a movie so you can see the documents on the screen and know I'm not just making this up or whatever. But, yeah, that one, that went around. And what was amazing is, like, after I put those things out, then everyone started saying they was all nonchalant, like they knew it all along, and they didn't. And I promise you this, after we talk about Robert Kennedy, everyone's going to pretend they knew all these things, and they're not going to credit where they learned.
Yeah, no, the Robert Kennedy one's something I haven't heard about, so we're going to speak about that in a few minutes, the connection to that, because that's one I've heard people think it was a cover-up, but I know none of the details. Pretty much everyone knows the JFK one now, and a lot of that, I believe you did a lot of that research in JFK
I think
as well, right?
JFK is one of the conspiracies that people who are pretty turned off to categorically to conspiracies, they go, well, not that one. That's one they look at, they come on, his brain went out the back of his head. He was shot from the front.
Yeah, seven bullet entries between two people with one bullet, I think is the official story. A magic bullet, they call it.
Not entries, but yeah.
Or entry and exit wounds, I guess it is at 7. Mm-hmm. It's still a lot. I don't think one bullet's doing 7 entry and exit wounds. It just shows you.
And then it ends up at the gurney in the hospital in pristine condition. No. It's magic bullet is people over focus on Daley Plaza with JFK. For me, I feel like, look, telling you expendable shooters really doesn't do anything because you don't know who they are, and like if you don't know the relationship to organized crime in the Israeli state, then it doesn't matter. And so I put out a film called Decades of Deception that went over how they did it and who did it. And I made another film called NUMEC, which I think you've seen, on why they did it. And the why is the most important. NUMEC is mostly about the Israeli theft of highly enriched uranium from the United States, but that's crucial into understanding why they killed JFK over Dimona and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, having a motive. A motive is one of the biggest aspects, like in a murder case, and that the motive was very clear. And it's crazy. Yeah, you walked through how they were stealing our nuclear, was the uranium. They're taking it right from there, bringing it to Israel, and we just turned a blind eye.
Yeah, and one of the people that worked through Heli Trading Company at the Israeli side that was receiving Krytron triggers from Arnan Milchan was Benjamin Netanyahu.
I saw that recently. When I saw that, I was in shock. This guy was literally stealing nuclear triggers.
Milchan was the executive producer for JFK, the movie, which never mentioned Israel.
No, it's just, people need to look up what we're saying because it sounds so ridiculous. The guy who made the movie, JFK, was literally stealing nuclear triggers with Benjamin Netanyahu from the United States and bringing them to Israel. And this is the guy who does the movie. Guy, look, guys, it's the CIA. Yeah,
bombs. Yeah, it is. Hollywood is not that separate from the defense industry in a lot of things. There's so much propaganda, and just a little side note. I don't want to talk too long on this because I can talk about this for a long time. But history itself is being overtaken by Hollywood, and that includes the History Channel and all that. They create mysteries where there are none because those sell. I swear, people don't even want an answer for some stuff. They want to just say, give me the file. Where's the list? Where's this? Because, I don't know. It's like entertainment for them, maybe. They're not really sincere about... They don't care about the victims or the people that died or the wars that started. It's just... They're just like that song from Tool, vicarious, watching from a distance, watching people die. I don't feel like they've really emotionally digested like what it would be like to have a family member die in the World Trade Center, or get killed in Iraq, or get raped over and over again by billionaires. They're just like, I wonder if this celebrity or that celebrity's on it. It's like gossipy trash. And I'm like, man, there's the moral decay is immeasurable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Where are the decent human beings? You got an open genocide in front of the whole world right now in Gaza, and very few people will even like verbalize that it's happening.
They deny it.
Ask them to go there. I don't know.
They call me anti-Semitic for posting about it, and it's just you can go on those Telegram channels and see it.
Yeah, I saw the Palestinian News Network is like all in your grill. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, he's hating on me. It's like, fuck off. I've done so much to like fight for the Palestinian people, and it's like that was obviously not a profitable or smart move to do, but it's just I was seeing this, and it's just I couldn't like watch that and not speak up. It's just literally watching a genocide in front of our eyes, being videotaped live.
Like bombing apartments.
I think it was you that posted on Twitter earlier the Gaza. It was just the whole
the
place.
drone footage. Yeah, it just looks like a hellscape of rubble, of just gray, smashed concrete and thing, where they just bombed everybody, and there aren't tunnels under it. They want ethnic cleansing.
Oh,
this
very
is
clear.
Like Manifest Destiny 2.0. And Trump's little Trail of Tears plan. If people are familiar what happened to Cherokee groups and others, it was to walk them to Oklahoma, except everyone recognizes how wrong that was and now, but not everyone. They're like, oh, we'll just put them somewhere else, build some condo. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, imagine
that isn't your land. Like, you cannot justify stealing land because of the Old Testament says Jacob wrestled an angel and God is a real estate agent. That's not a legal precedent to steal private property.
It's disgusting that so many Americans go along and agree, like, imagine if Trump had said we were going to steal part of Mexico. Everyone would have freaked out. But the fact he's like, oh, we're going to take Gaza for Israel. Everyone was just kind of like, oh, he shouldn't do that. But it wasn't that big of a deal. It just shows you the control they have over American politics. And it's just like, I'm fed up.
And nobody in the media pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
Not the opposition party, his own party. Nobody said, you can't do that. You can't just move 2 million people and say go somewhere else because your genocidal maniac that you're sitting next to bombed everything into oblivion, collectively punished everybody over October 7th. And there's so many lies about it. They're having October 7th denial laws now.
Doesn't surprise me. You're going to go to
like, if you don't say 40 beheaded babies, if you don't glob onto every exaggeration, then you deny the whole thing happened at all, which is very reminiscent of another
historical event. We'll skip that in this episode, but
not deny it. But if you ever reject that they turn people into furniture and bars of soap or some the really ridiculous things that are still said about that event, then you're saying nothing happened at all. And you're a denier and you're anti-Semitic, and you like Hitler and blah 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 blah. It's getting to that point.
Do you feel any hope, though?
You're going to have to agree with, the most ridiculous one I heard was from the dildo salesman, Rabbi Shmuley, who said they cut off women's breasts and kicked them around like a football.
They the most crazy things. But do you feel a little bit of hope that people are rejecting it?
Him.
Well, what's his theory?
I think Rabbi Shmuley's ancestors must have been the ones in the Holocaust that were murdered by the masturbation machines. Because he's out there selling his daughter's dildo shop, and he's a rabbi.
How weird is that?
He looks like a Jim Henson Muppet, and he's just said on air on Piers Morgan that they're playing football with women's breasts. Okay, that did not happen. October 7th happened. People were murdered. People were taken hostage. People were also murdered by the Israelis, killed by other Israelis with the Hannibal Directive. All that happened. But they were not playing sports with body parts. And why do you have to say stuff like that?
Because they were turned into soap and lampshades. No, it's weird. They come up with the most ridiculous lies.
The soap and lampshade thing was presented in Buchenwald they marched the Germans in as part of the denazification program. So people did actually see soap and lampshades and shrunken heads and stuff from the psych war department. So they thought that was real when they were saying that. It wasn't. They were props.
That was the psychological War Department, like you
so
said.
So why everyone was lying, they were like, "Oh no, I saw it." Like, yeah, you saw something, okay? But yeah, so that was. They admit it now, though. I mean, in both orthodoxy, heterodoxy, like everyone agrees there were no soap or lampshades, but it's still going to be said.
People
and
still
if you deny
it.
any aspect of it, then I mean, they throw the baby out the bathwater and act like you wanted it to happen and no one died at all or something. It's such disingenuous filth, as is the accusation of anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. Here, it's real clear. You can't murder kids. It doesn't matter what their religion or ethnicity is. You're not allowed to go around and shoot children in the head. And that's what the IDF does. They're doctors, and they're finding the bullets in the skulls. God damn, man. Like, you're those are human beings, and you're just sitting there like you're hunting animals or something.
Children.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, I've seen them shoot children. It's just...
They murdered, like the babies on incubators lie about with the Kuwaitis. Mm-hmm. That actually happened. They cut off the power and the incubators turned off and the babies froze to death. That really did happen in Gaza. These babies are guilty of their own accusations.
It seems they do that all the time. Do you feel there's any hope of change, though, with because you were speaking up on this 15 years ago, but guys with a little fame like Dan Bilzerian and, Bryce Mitchell, guys like me changing the narrative a little bit, where there's starting to be some discussions, or you think they're going to reel this back in and make us out to be the most evil?
I think it's huge that guys like you, Andrew Tate, like people with really big audience, some fame for this or that, and some celebrities too are speaking out on it too, and almost the entire Game of Thrones cast is on Palestine's side. It makes a difference because people listen to that. They that's a regular person. I know them. You don't really know them. They're a celebrity, but they have impact because you have reach. And it just shows it's not just geopolitical analysts or kind of I don't know. It needs to be every walk of life saying the same thing. The more variety you have, the more it resonates with different people. So it's great. And I know some people are butthurt because the ones most deserving of the spotlight are the ones that put in 30, 40 years, the Norman Finkelsteins and the Gideon Levies and the Eon Papa, these people. I've met them all. I've gone to all the conferences and stuff. They've been doing this, grinding at this, and had their life destroyed over it. And then someone else comes along that just learned about it a year ago or something, and they get all the attention. I'm like, but that's not their fault.
And that's what set the groundwork
that's
for
the
it.
Audience. That's the way.
We want change
work together.
Yeah, no, exactly. So obviously, it's good to get credit for things you did, but the big picture is can we fix the problem? That's the most important thing. It's I was so happy.
I've put in 25 years on this, but I always hat tip to Justin Raimondo or Jim Loeb or with whoever I consider the forefathers. I always say, it was in this article, this guy. Why not?
Yeah, no,
Justin's passed away.
I try to credit you on that.
Passed away
because you as far as I know, you're the first person I knew that was doing deep research a long time ago, and amazing good research that people are still using today. A lot of the stuff that people like me and Dan are saying, maybe not even being aware, comes from some of the stuff you've done.
It comes to me or comes from someone who got it from me. I was not the first, but I was the first to make films about it, probably, and because I realized. And this applies to myself too. People just tend to watch movies more than articles, or they don't even know what article to read or what to ask until there's something that gets their foot in the door. And so the films, I figured when YouTube first came on and you were able to do that, although I didn't have very long time on there, but that could have worked. And once Google bought it, I was gone. That was it.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy because, like I mentioned earlier, that they can talk about the Saudi connections, but you talk about the Saudi and the Israeli connections and the the U.S. connections. Oh, can't do that.
No, you can't. You're not allowed to show how the whole network works. That's the Saudis in the U.S.
Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
It's a long
Yeah,
story,
let's actually get into. I don't know, but let's get into RFK real quick. RFK Senior. I don't know the story very well, so I don't know the right questions asked. But why don't you walk me through what you believe happened in that situation?
Yeah, well, Robert Kennedy was assassinated on kind of the 5th of June, barely, because it was right after midnight. So he was, it's on the anniversary of the 6-Day War, and just days before the anniversary of the Israelis attacking the USS Liberty. I'm sure you know, where they put a gag order on the survivors.
Yeah, I had Philip Turney on here. I think you know him. You know, that was crazy.
Yeah. He was running to become president. He had just won the California primary, and he was at the Ambassador Hotel and gave a speech saying, let's on to Chicago. I think it was one of his last public words. His very last words is everyone okay? Like, even after being shot, because 5 other people were shot. And he asked, is everyone okay? Or is everyone all right?
That's crazy.
Maitre d'. And I mean, he'd just been shot in the head too, so whatever. But like, he was murdered, and it seems like an open and shut case, because you've got a guy with a gun that shot him in front of people, and he got tackled and subdued and arrested, and so that's that, right? And his name was Sirhan, Bashir or Sirhan, whatever. But there are a lot of problems with that. And by the way, Sirhan, the patsy, they blamed the entirety of it on, just so happened to be a Palestinian Christian.
How convenient.
Yeah, a little on the nose. and not only that, but he had a newspaper in his back pocket about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Oh,
so if he'd been taken out, so you would know that was his motive. This is the evil Palestinian.
So over the top and ridiculous.
It's very them. And yeah, but and RFK didn't support Israel at all. He supported right of return, in fact, for Palestinians.
Oh, wow. And
of course, he was the one that initiated the inspections on Dimona for Israel's nuclear weapons. And so, but so if you look at the forensic evidence and the eyewitness testimony and the coroner evidence and the acoustic evidence, so you get 3 different types, and you put it together, there's huge problems with it. The worst sin, I suppose, is Sirhan had an 8-shot revolver, but there's 13 shots.
Oh wow, that's a big one.
Right. So the story is Sirhan all by himself, hiding in the kitchen because he just somehow knew that he was going to go out that direction. Pops out, takes an 8-shot revolver, shoots it 13 times in front of Kennedy, hitting him 3 times in the back.
And never reloaded the gun.
No, he got tackled after the second shot. So I'll go over it.
That's so
let's
insane.
start with. Yeah, I mean.
So obviously, right there, it's just obviously.
Right there, it's like, okay, there's too many shots, and then it really breaks down after that. So he had a .22 caliber 8-shot revolver, and yet you've got 2 bullets in Kennedy and 5 bystanders who were shot, and 1 in the ceiling.
Wow.
And then in a FOIA request, this Freedom of Information Act, which wasn't until 1976. This whole event happened in 1968. But the FBI has photographs of more bullets in the door frame, the kitchen pantry, the two bullet holes, and they circled them. So there's 2 more bullets there.
He was shot from a kitchen, or he was in a kitchen? Where was the shots from?
He was about to go. He was going through a kitchen because they convinced him, "Oh, don't go through the crowd. Everyone loves you."
So he was walked out. Someone walked him that way.
People. They walked him into a kill zone. Is what they did. And Sirhan is hiding there. How did he know?
Yeah, how would he have known he would have got walked through the kitchen? Exactly.
Because Kennedy almost always did interact with the crowd and shake hands, But it's midnight, he's, just go. Don't go. But he was shaking hands too. He was shaking hands with the busboy just before he got popped. And so you have too many shots. And there's a photo of Thomas Noguchi inspecting the bullets. That's a police examiner. And then you have the FBI photos. Those photos don't come out until 76. Because you also have to realize Thomas Noguchi is there's a photo of him. So you have police evidence, you have FBI evidence showing too many bullets. Mm-hmm. And you had eyewitness Angelo DiPiero. Him and another guy named Martin Petruski. They both saw the bullet holes and a bullet in the frame and testified as such. And then an FBI agent who was there on June 5th, his name was William Bailey. He got to have an even closer look at the crime scene, obviously, and he was positive that there were 2 bullet holes and 2 bullets. He said as much to the LA supervisor. His name was Baxter Ward. So this is all verifiable. And Angelo also remembers that there had been like someone taking a marker and circled the bullet holes. So not only were they circled there, then on the photo, they took the marker and circled on top of that, I suppose. So you have 2 eyewitnesses that saw the holes and a bullet, and you have an FBI agent that saw both holes and bullets and testified as such. And that is verified also by the Los Angeles County Supervisor, Baxter Ward. And these bullets are going to have some problems too. So you have Sirhan firing from the front, and yet all 3 shots, plus a hole in his coat, were all from behind. And that matches with the evidence from the coroner. And so you've got powder burns marks on Kennedy's body. Mm-hmm. You can't get powder burn marks on your body unless the gun is very close to your body.
So someone walked right up to him from behind then and shot him 3 times. Is how it would appear, correct?
Yeah, right. And you have a chemical test on his jacket that also verifies the shot had to be from extremely close. And you have the ballistics test. And William Harper, he's a nationally respected criminologist, compared the bullet out of RFK's neck and one pulled out of a bystander named was Woody Wiesel. Mm-hmm. And he noticed that they had different firing angles. Every problem you can have in a ballistics test, these bullets didn't match. Mm-hmm. And perhaps more obvious than that, I forgot the technical name, but the ring that goes around a bullet, what's that called?
The shell?
No, it's...
I'm not a good gun guy, I don't know.
But anyway, this Herbert McDonald noticed that, I think it's called a canneler. Some gun person can know, but RFK's bullet only had one of these rings, and the other bullet had 2.
So it was
the one
two
pulled out
separate
of his
guns.
neck had 1. The one pulled out of a bystander's stomach, had 2. So the cannelers didn't match.
Yeah.
And then you had every single witness placing Sirhan as firing in front of Kennedy, and from much further away than an inch, because they determined Thomas Noguchi, that's the Los Angeles County coroner, and Dwayne Wolfer, that's the police examiner, they both agreed that the fatal shot was from inches from RFK's right ear and less than 1 inch from his head. Less than an inch from his head. That's like one Ben Shapiro penis away.
Yeah, so just right Ben Shapiro. So
So what happened is the person that shot him was right behind him, and he just kind of pulled it from the hip, Western style, like bam, bam, bam.
So probably Secret Service or someone. They had to be literally right next to him.
I'll tell you who it was, and just I'm going to get to that. We know exactly who did it.
Just what you told me so far is insane, because it's so clearly just this information now that it was obviously not the story. Those are such big, glaring.
There's too many of them.
These aren't like a small deal. These are massive things right there. It's wild.
Carl Ecker, who's kind of sort of famous. He's in a lot of photographs, kneeling over him. He's a maitre d' in that tuxedo. He was the only guy standing between Sirhan and Kennedy. But the fact that you have a man standing between them is the length of him.
Yeah.
A torso, he's more than an inch. And he is 100% sure that he pushed Sirhan over the pantry steam table after the second shot. And this could be why a bullet's in the ceiling, because he
that would
gets
make
knocked
sense,
over,
yeah.
and then everybody piled on top of him. So he's just kind of whatever. And one they found up in the ceiling. And he was standing between them, so again, he's not an inch away, and he's not behind him. And you're like, well, maybe Kennedy turned around, for some reason, and after one shot missed, and then he got hit in the back 3 times or something. But it won't add up, because bystanders behind Sirhan are hit with bullets. And one of the guys that was there was John Pilger. The man next to him was shot. But John Pilger is probably the best documentarian that ever lived.
Author, documentary maker, and journalist John Pilger gives his first-hand account as he was an eyewitness to the Robert Kennedy assassination.
There's no question that there was another gunman, because one of the people who was hit, just grazed, was standing next to me, and that happened when Sirhan had been wrestled to the ground. So that's the interesting thing. There was another assassin, or several assassins.
All during 1968, prior to Yom Kippur.
He's also in an Iron Man comic, for you nerds.
Really?
They put him in.
I don't know who he is. So
he made the Magnificent African Cake. He's done a lot of great documentaries. And he's one of the unsung heroes. This Australian guy.
What was he there? Was he just there with him randomly, or what was he doing?
Well, he's a journalist. He was there.
Okay, he was covering that, yeah.
He's now passed away. He passed away a few years ago, but he's super reliable, and he's always does the voices for the voiceless type of things. Like if you look at his documentaries, he gets into it. And a man standing next to him was shot from the direction that the guy that killed Kennedy was shooting from, not Sirhan. He was already on the floor. And he didn't have his gun by that point. So then you have the acoustic evidence, which records 13 shots fired, and a man named Robert Joling and his partner Philip Van Prague said that after analyzing audio recordings of the assassination, they concluded at least 13 shots.
I matched the gun used to one of Kennedy's security guards through acoustic analysis from an unknown recording of the fired shots. 13 shots were fired. Sirhan, who was blamed for the killing, had a gun that only could hold 8 bullets. Robert Kennedy was also shot from behind, and his accused assassin was in front of him.
So what has led you to conclude that there was someone other than Sirhan who was shooting at Robert Kennedy?
We've concluded that Sirhan not only did not shoot Senator Kennedy, but could not have shot Senator Kennedy. And the reason for that is Sirhan was never in a position where he could shoot Senator Kennedy from behind. And Senator Kennedy was shot 4 times from behind. 3 of the bullets entered his body, and 1 went through his suit coat at the right upper seam. In addition to that, 5 other victims were shot, and no single bullet hit more than 1 person. Therefore, there were 9 bullets into people that had to be accounted for. And that was the minimum amount of bullets. Sirhan's gun only held 8 bullets. As a result, there was a question from the very beginning, how was that possible to get 9 shots out of an 8-shot revolver? And of course, that was never answered by the investigating officers.
Well, there were 13 shot sounds that I found on that recording, up to the point where the screams just totally overrode all of the other audio, and it would have been impossible to recover any shot sounds beyond that point. So the discovery of 13 shot sounds in and of itself establishes a second gun from the standpoint of Sirhan's capacity being only 8 shots. The second discovery was the presence of 2 double shot instances, and that is 2 shots that occur so closely together as to preclude the possibility of having come from a single weapon.
Eugene Caesar, the man positioned behind Kennedy with the gun, claimed that he had already sold his gun in the month prior. However, it was discovered that he actually sold his gun 3 months after the assassination. So why did he lie about when he sold his gun?
Were fired, at least. And then you also had in addition to that, forensic audio specialists Wes Dooley and Paul Pegas, they're from the Audio Engineering Associates in Pasadena, and they found at least 10 shots, at least. And what I'll tell you why there's a discrepancy there is because after 10 shots, a lot of the crowd is screaming and there's a lot of white noise, and so it's hard to pick out the last 3 shots. However, from around 2015 or so onward, where you can pull the audio out and visually see it, and they were able to determine more easily. And there's software now where you can remove noise, and they didn't have Audacity back when they were doing this, but now you can, and it's 13 shots.
That's crazy. This got
I mean,
buried.
we know because there's 13 bullets. So
yeah, no, I've never heard any of this. I can't believe this has kind of got buried for the most part.
No, I mean, this is amazing. That this is my problem. Like I was saying in the beginning, these things are not mysteries. Mm-hmm. They're just waiting for the authoritative guy on TV to tell them what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have recorded acoustic evidence gone over by professionals saying more than 8 is all that matters. It doesn't matter with 10, 13.
Yeah.
They're saying at least 10, could be more when everyone starts screaming.
If it was 9, we know there was 2 shooters.
Right. If there's 9 shots, that's too many. And it wasn't some bullet going ding, 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 like bug ricocheting, like bang, bang,
the magic
bang.
bullet.
It's recorded. Eyewitnesses heard more than 8 shots. Vincent, what was his name? He was the L.A. District Attorney. Buglisi. He was the guy that prosecuted Charles Manson.
Oh, that guy is shady.
Well, Manson was too, but
yeah.
He's the DA, but he was convinced there was a second shooter. In fact, he said something along the lines of, the time of counting bullets is over. We need to start looking for the firing squad.
So
you have to have more than one gun.
Did this happen? Where did this happen in L.A., the shooting, or where did it happen?
At the Ambassador Hotel in L.A., which has been torn down.
Convenient.
Oh, they went and destroyed the evidence, by the way. Physically, like the door panel, they removed it.
When did they do that? Like right after?
It was afterward, but it wasn't until after the Zapruder film was released, which wasn't until the 70s. Robert Kennedy never saw the Zapruder film. Isn't that amazing? There were still pictures of it in Time Life magazine, but there was no video of his brother being shot. Yeah. Had he seen that, he would have jumped on the case a lot sooner than he did. And by the way, guess what Robert Kennedy was doing the week before he was murdered?
Investigating the Warren Commission?
He was investigating the death of his brother. He spent 2 hours locked in a room going over a lead. And I'll get to that in a second, too. But I want to stay on the physical evidence first, and then I'll get into why. But you also had Nina Rhodes Hughes. And Nina Rhodes was, she's pictured with Kennedy. And she reported 12 to 14 shots. She said there were at least 12, maybe 14. And I know there were because I hear the rhythm in my head. And it sounded like firecrackers, tap, 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 tap. Where you get 2 shots too close in procession together. Did it? So it's, she can hear it. She's counting over 8. That's all that matters. 12 to 14. Pretty good, by the way, because there's at least 13 because there's 13 bullets.
Seems pretty
you
clear.
You could have a bullet
13,
no one ever found or someone picked it up, I guess, but you got to have 13. So there's that. But her testimony is more telling than Vincent because, like, even if she was wrong, like she's going based off audio in her head, even if she's wrong, that's still what she told the FBI, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what they reported.
What did they report?
They altered her statement and said that she said there were 8 shots.
That's highly illegal. Nothing was done. Or actually, is it the FBI can lie?
Well, this is a huge
FBI?
screw up from them. Because you could say she thinks she heard more than she did or whatever. That they changed her account massive. And said 8 shots. So that's showing FBI collusion of covering this up and going, don't say there were more than 8 shots. That implicates collusion.
Yeah, no, that seems...
And she still, says, nope. I heard 12 to 14 shots. I know that's what I told them. I never altered my statements. They did. Then
Yeah.
you have witnesses that the shooter's name was Thane Eugene Caesar. That's who actually killed him.
What's
He
his
was a
name one more
cop.
time? What was his name?
Thane Eugene Caesar.
Okay.
They call him Gene Caesar.
You said
That's
he was
the
a
man
cop.
that murdered Robert Kennedy. And you have witnesses that saw him fire his gun.
Wow.
In fact, Don Schulman from CBS News was there as a witness. And he said Sirhan stepped out from the kitchen and Kennedy's bodyguard fired back.
Damn.
So he saw, he didn't know.
He
He
literally
thought,
saw
oh,
it, yeah.
the cop must be shooting at Sirhan.
Oh,
Because
he just saw him shooting,
he's-
but didn't realize he was shooting.
yeah,
at.
he's the bodyguard because he's dressed in
I
a
see.
police uniform. He was like a rent-a-cop, and he's firing at the perpetrator, but he wasn't. He was firing into Kennedy, but he saw him with his gun out. And Thane Caesar admitted in interviews that he had his gun out in his hand. He kind of has to
'Cause he got saw with it,
people
yeah.
saw him. Yeah, like, but that witness I picked out because Don Schulman was also a CBS News employee. So there's somebody like who has an eye for that and worked for, professional news organization. And he's saying, yeah, I mean, and he's not, the reason he'll say that is because he thinks he's firing back at Sirhan like the police tried to stop him. So he saw it.
Yeah, so for
You
his
know?
mind, it made sense to him. He thought at the time it was a police officer, but that was who was doing the shooting.
Well, I mean, you kind of would assume, why would a cop kill Kennedy? Obviously, the cop must have been firing at the bad guy.
Wait, was the cop
And Sirhan was in front of him, and he fired his gun.
Was the
so
cop-
it made sense to him.
Was he there with Kennedy, or what was his reasoning for being there? The Caesar,
Who, Don?
the
Well,
cop Caesar.
Oh yeah, so yes, that. I'm gonna get to all that. I just want to get through all the.
Okay, yeah, no, go through. I
witnesses
didn't
and
realize you were
physical
covered that.
stuff,
Yeah, no, go through the
Yeah,
physical
it's
stuff
just
first.
see,
I
he
didn't-
was there. Well, I can tell you. So he worked for Ace Security, and Ace Security has some mafia background. So what it was, the guy, Mr. Gardner, Bill Gardner, was the head of security for the hotel, and his guys were there dressed in brown, but they didn't have any guns. They didn't have any weapons. They're just officers. But so they hired Ace Security, like private security, and they were armed.
Okay.
And that was Thane.
That was the hotel that he got
And,
walked through.
Yeah, and he was a temporary employee. I'll get into Thane's
Okay,
background in a second,
okay.
but anyway, Thane lied about his gun. He said he had a .38 caliber, which was true-ish because he also had a .22 caliber gun, and he had a .22 caliber pistol, same caliber as Sirhan's gun.
Those were the bullets that
They didn't
killed
want to
him,
make
correct?
the same mistake they made when they murdered the mayor of Chicago and used two different calibers. So this time they got
Who
the
was
calibers
which
correct.
mayor was that?
The
We'll get into that another time,
Cermak.
obviously. But
Yeah, easily they killed him, and the fatal shot was with a .45, and that was
the wrong
overkill and
bullet.
stupid because it's not the caliber of the Patsy. But so anyway, you got to realize like all this like CSI Miami and stuff you see on TV, it's rarely ever done. We're like, oh, we're gonna get the fingerprints, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do ballistic test. Even when it's done, they just ignore the results.
Yeah, when they see it, they're like, oh, never mind, we'll just bury it. Like I said, digging
But
through
here's the
Kennedy.
kicker. They asked Thane, what'd you do with your .22 caliber gun? Which, police issued gun. They know you have it. Oh, I sold it 3 months ago, 3 months before the shooting. But, oh, really? Who'd you sell it to? They go to the buyer, and they have the receipt. Turns out he sold that gun 3 months after the shooting. And the receipt, I'll show you.
we'll
That's
put
the
a
receipt
picture,
right
yeah.
there.
Wow.
Handwritten.
Yeah, so it seems
September
like a lot.
6, 1968. Okay, he was murdered in June.
Yeah, he would
So-
remember. He would remember the gun if he sold it before or after. That's clearly deliberately lying.
Yeah, clearly. And why'd you sell the gun? Of course, he wants to get rid of the hot gun. Why didn't you go bury it somewhere? But whatever,
Yeah.
he sold it.
Probably less suspicious. Maybe he was thinking with the cell. Like
No,
did
he
see the
got
gun,
good.
yeah.
They want the gun that killed RFK. That's
true.
what it is. Like it's
They want to keep it. Yeah, you're right. A weird, like demonic, or they want the trophies.
It's because they're like, this is an age before the internet, before cell phones. Like you do a thing, if you're not caught in the act, you kind of.
Yeah, and they'd gotten away with so much. We don't have to get off track, but you obviously know all the things they'd done, and they gotten so bold after JFK. They felt invincible.
They killed the president.
Yeah,
they killed a mayor. They killed the president. They used to the mafia would just kill witnesses. That was, in fact, you have witnesses harassed after this too. Now, why would Thane lie about his gun? And he's witnessed there firing his gun, and you have too many bullets, and the only guy in a position to be an inch away to leave powder burns on the body is Thane Caesar. He was belly to back with RFK. He led him into the kill zone, and then just shoots him. But a lot of this doesn't come out until the 70s, 71s.
Was he ever an official suspect, or was it just buried and never? Did ever prosecutors ever look at him, or they were just told not to, or something obviously happened?
The files sat locked in L.A. and no one's allowed to see them.
So these are still locked up. Hopefully they'll be getting...
destroy them. I'll tell you that too. But
yeah, well, I've heard this.
So you had in August, you had William Harper, who I mentioned earlier, is going to give his testimony. And the day before his trial, he was followed by 2 men in a Buick who shot up his car, shot the back of his car.
Wow.
Thomas Noguchi, the coroner that agreed, he's an inch away, here's the powder burns, thinks there's 2 guns, all that, he got fired. And a lawyer named Godfrey Isaac, he was an attorney, that he contested the firing and ended up getting him reinstated. And then his wife kind of had a mysterious accident, and it's so weird. Another guy, Walt Emerson, he got death threats on the phone because he was financing research into the murder. And then you had Theodore Chirac, who got assaulted with a gun and told to turn over his evidence. And he was both an investigator and a witness. He saw it. He knew Thane shot him. He was investigating the shooting, and he got assaulted. And his assistant, Betty Dreyer, got knifed.
Wow.
So Sirhan is not running around shooting cars and assaulting people and knifing women. He didn't do that. He was already in prison. This is the mob.
Yeah,
that did that.
Probably
and then you have
the Jewish mob that run in LA, I would assume.
And Italian, both.
Yeah, connected. Yeah,
those two don't they're
much more
that at that
point.
They're
pretty much the same at that point.
Thane's necktie is actually on the floor right next to RFK's hand. It's almost he knows he's getting hit from the back, and he grabs this guy and yanks the tie off, and it's there on the floor. It's very telling. His last clue, even after being shot, is he pulled that off the perpetrator.
So yeah, he knew who was shooting him. That was his way to try to fight back.
He knew it. He could feel it. And Thane, he was, like I said earlier, he's a temporary employee for Ace Security. He got a call on June 4th, the day before the event, to replace regular security personnel. He was a guy who would go months without working there, and then when they needed him,
for some reason.
There. Yeah. And he had run-ins with the law.
So yeah, it wasn't.
He had been arrested in Mexico. He had been arrested in Tijuana, and his record kind of just got expunged. They're like, what? We know, because they know people who know him that know he got arrested, but they go like, what did he get arrested for? Where? How long?
You can't find his record.
It all got disappeared, and it got disappeared because of John Alessio. So Ace Security, if the company they hired was used by the U.S. National Bank of San Diego, it's a mafia bank. And the controlling conglomerate for the U.S. National Bank was Westgate, California, and was run by Nixon's mafia buddy, C. Arnold Smith. And the director, and he was also a shareholder of Westgate, California, was John Alessio. And any mob person knows that name. It's like saying Meyer Lansky or something.
He's a big mob guy.
Their eyes just got big. His real name was Ginevidi Savido Alessio. And he ran a pretty clever scheme. He had a horse track and a dog track in both the U.S. and in Mexico. But what he would do is he had a bookmaking operation in Mexico where it's legal, but he would accept bets on U.S. races. So that's a way that he could rig the races in the United States, take the bets in Mexico.
And people from the U.S. probably would go down to do some of the bets too.
Yeah, I mean, this is double booking, and gambling. It's for profiteer, making profits. It's also because it's rigged. It's also money laundering. Like, oh, I'm going to lose money on your racetrack on purpose as a way of giving you payment.
Oh, interesting. So there's lots of different reasons they're doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
money laundered makes sense. I never thought of that. Or yeah, a way to pay someone, and never thought of those aspects.
Well, I mean, this is where Sirhan is working on the racetracks, owned
wow.
by mafioso. Like,
Interesting. I didn't know that. So he was tied in with these people, just like the Jack
He was
Ruby.
in debt to them. I mean, they had him by the shorty. He owed $28,000, which is an enormous amount of money in 1968. You know, he had been in debt. And he'd always worked around these things, and he was a gambler, and he was not very good at picking. And in fact, he got recruited by Frank Donaramus, I'm still getting into the witness harassment, so there's more of that. But John Alessio, notorious mobster, did finally end up going to jail for tax evasion or something, but because that's the one thing you don't rob the government.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
They never got Meyer Lansky though. He seemed to have like a pass.
No, he had too much on. Meyer Lansky
dirt.
and Frank Costello had the goods on Hoover, and his Clyde Tolson, his secret lover.
Yeah, the Epstein wasn't the first blackmail operation they did.
No, the Epstein back then was named Bobby Baker.
Bobby Baker.
And that whole thing went away when LBJ was in office and Kennedy was no longer there.
We'll have to get into that another time then, because I've never heard of Bobby Baker.
Well, that's
interesting.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it sounds like too much to get on right now, because we're...
He was the Epstein of then. And prior to Bobby Baker, kind of simultaneously, like a guy that had a knack for blackmailing celebrities, not so much politicians and stuff, but they would go in and blackmail the celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and people like that.
Oh, yeah.
Mickey Cohen.
Mickey Cohen. Oh, because he was tied in with all the celebrities, because he was the Hollywood guy, right? The Hollywood mobster.
Well, he ran a gambling operation out of the Ambassador Hotel.
Oh, Jesus. So he's tied in with this, too, and that's the hotel do you know who made the decision to walk him through there, or is that not known?
Yeah, that is known. But let's go into Sirhan a little bit, too. You had his defense counsel, okay? The chief defense counselor for Sirhan was Grant Cooper.
Who's that?
Grant Cooper defended 4 co-defendants of Johnny Roselli. I know you know who he is.
Is he a mobster? I'm sorry, I don't. Is that
Absolutely.
a mobster? Is that...
Yeah, Johnny Roselli. It's called the Friars Club case. It was his it's gambling, casino stuff. Johnny Roselli was one of the figures in the JFK assassination who had been bragging about, we're going to kill the Kennedys. He was a very well-known mobster. He actually was murdered right out. Sam Giancana, the underboss at a Chicago outfit, had already been murdered. He shot him in the mouth. I mean, he shut your mouth. And Johnny Roselli actually went and spoke with the House Select Committee on Assassinations, who was investigating JFK. You have to understand the investigation, the big investigation, not the Warren Commission. The real investigation into the assassination didn't start until the 70s after the Zapruder film was released.
Really?
Then it got this renewed interest, and Congress got in and they started looking at it. And the official story is multiple shooters based on acoustic evidence from a police radio on a motorbike, that there was somebody shooting from the grassy knoll. So that is, our own government admits more than one shooter.
Yeah,
that's a big
pretty
can
much
of worms.
every eyewitness says it too and matches it. So it seems
a lot of them
pretty
ran
clear,
toward there. There's smoke visible there where something had been fired. Definitely. But Johnny Roselli is under pressure. He's caught in this Friars Club scandal. He's going to kind of plea bargain on his own. They didn't like that. And before he could go meet for the third time, closed session, they murdered him.
Dang.
And they murdered him in a brutal way. They cut up his body and put it in drums, like barrels, and dumped it in the Gulf of America.
Wow. So that was
at the time Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it
they
was
find drums, and they opened the drums up, and that's what happened to Johnny Roselli. They wanted him dead and unfindable, like Jimmy Hoffa style. Like, you are not going to be found.
Interesting, and that was obviously
they did not want him
the mob too.
They didn't care who talked to the Warren Commission. because it didn't matter. You know,
Yeah, because they had Warren
but they
Commission
did
covered.
care about the House Select Committee on Assassinations, and that's when a lot of Kennedy witnesses and stuff end up being suicided or murdered, and murdered in the most brutal
Yeah, I didn't even
ways.
know about this commission. I knew the reach the Warren
I know,
Commission.
that's
That was
the
clearly a sham. I didn't know about this one.
Everyone knows about the 9/11 Commission. They don't know about the IG report, and they don't know about the Senate investigation. And I'm like, you know why? I blame charlatans like Alex Jones and stuff, because they just wouldn't mention.
God,
They
he's the
would
worst, right?
exclusively talk about 9/11 Commission like that was the only thing, and it wasn't. You also had the victims' families that sued. There's a lot of information from those lawsuits and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, our own government admits multiple shooters. Always has. That's not a secret. That's why so many people are like, yeah, well, who was the other shooter then? And or you know, that's assuming Oswald is one of the two. And
Yeah.
they say so. Then
His
who's
own
the other
words,
one?
he's a
At
patsy.
minimal, right?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. It's not what happened. But
Got it,
anyway, the that's Johnny Roselli, and so Grant Cooper is defending infamously, high-level mobsters and their co-defendants in the Friars Club case. And then Roselli's murdered, and then Cooper was actually convicted as an accessory to a crime the next year, in 1969, because he had, get this, unauthorized possession of secret grand jury testimony. I wonder how he got that.
Yeah, interesting, right?
You know, the mob would use that to figure out who the witnesses are.
So
and
they could
kill
know
them.
if someone was getting,
Yeah.
if someone was onto them. That way, they could know, like, oh, this is getting serious. That makes
You're
sense.
not
If
gonna.
have
They would
spies.
just put the squeeze and kill them or kill their wife, or they would get they were nasty.
Yeah, so they'd find out.
So because
who
of
actually
that,
matters.
Grant Cooper, like imagine your lawyer who works for the mob gets in trouble for having possession of secret grand jury testimony, and then thinking, man, I don't want to talk about RFK. If he did that, doesn't he have us too? And then, of course, it obviously did, because you're getting people knifed and their cars shot and things and beat up. But so the defense was passed down to his co-counsel, a man named Russell Parsons. People probably don't know who that is, but he, you want to take a wild guess as to whether or not he was clean?
Probably not.
No. Russell Parsons routinely defended mobsters, and he himself had been investigated over mafia connections by the chief counsel of the Senate Racket Committee.
Oh wow, this is
You
Sirhan's defense.
you probably heard of him.
Who's that?
Do you know who the chief counsel of the Senate Racket Committee was?
No, who?
Robert Kennedy.
Oh wow,
Yeah. It's that on the nose.
that's crazy.
Parsons also wrote a glowing reference letter for Mickey Cohen, recommending that the Cleveland authorities would terminate his probation. And you know who Cohen is?
Cohen's the head of the LA mob. Yeah.
Cohen is like after Lansky, Capone, Hoffa.
Yeah, one of
and
the biggest
Marcellos
mobsters.
is probably one of the most famous mobsters, right? You know, he's
Yeah,
up
because he was
there.
tied in with the
Bugsy,
Hollywood
maybe.
people and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Cohen had worked out of that hotel. Now he was in jail at the time of the assassination, and he ended up getting hit with a pipe.
But just still that he was tied in with that hotel is still
He's
very
tied in
relevant.
with the hotel, and he's tied in with Sirhan's lawyers.
That's crazy.
And his co-counsel. I mean, like, these guys, why is Sirhan being defended by mafia lawyers? Because they're not defending him. They're defending themselves.
They want him
They're
like
making sure
they
it
want him
exclusively
scared.
is completely blamed on Sirhan, who acts like he blanked out and has no idea what happened.
Why do you think he went along with it?
drugged him.
Maybe they were scared for his family, or they would kill him anyways. Or why do you think he went along with it? I mean, he owed him money,
Because
obviously.
he did it. I mean, Sirhan was there
He was
with a
involved
gun,
too,
but
yeah.
it's like he did it because they threatened him. And it's
Threatened him,
like,
yeah.
you shut your mouth or we'll wipe out your whole lineage.
Your
or
whole
whatever,
family,
you know,
probably,
like,
yeah.
He was there. He had a
Yeah.
gun.
So he was
Fuck that
definitely
guy.
part of it. Yeah, he was definitely part of it.
He
but
was. And he was in debt to the mob, and they have ways of making you do stuff. So, and he may not remember. Who knows what they injected him with or whatever. Now, they say who he could have been hypnotized, and like, I don't want to argue about that. Yes, that is possible. You can actually do that. You can. There are certain people who are very susceptible to it. Manchurian candidates.
Yeah,
who
the
can
MK
do that
Ultra.
too. It's just, even when you have that, it's still more reliable just to drug them. But whatever. Then you have Evel Younger, who is the DA, who bragged about being soft on crime. It's very California of him. Sounds like Gavin Newsom.
Right.
And 2 weeks after promising to release the files that everyone was clamming for, they got destroyed. And the rest are locked away.
Got destroyed.
So like, they just cleaned this whole thing out. And then this guy, Murray Chotiner, who is a lawyer for Jimmy Hoffa, the arch enemy of RFK, his lawyer, who ran campaigns for a very famous California governor.
Which
named
one?
Earl Warren.
Oh, Jesus.
Of the Warren Commission. Yeah.
Who was the head of the JFK investigation, people who don't know. Jesus.
And in fact, Robert Kennedy assumed, when they asked about it, they like, why didn't you dig into your brother's case? And he would say, it was just so distressing, the whole event, that he just accepted the Warren Commission's conclusions. But then he got interested, and he could become president, and so he would have the power to really do it. And they knew
it was a serious threat to them. Yeah, this was a very serious threat.
Undone
if the
everything.
president's after
And
you,
so,
he could have them executed and their life of
oh yeah, because they worked together. He was working in the Justice Department. Like, he was going after him. He was prosecuting the mob. They wanted both of them dead. They hated him more than they hated John, but they had to get rid of John before they could get rid of Robert. And so, yeah, I mean, come on, he was prosecuting one of the men that ends up being the head defense for Sirhan.
Jesus.
with Parsons. But yeah, I mean, so he's suspicious of Jimmy Hoffa, and it turns out that could have been warranted because Carmine Galante, who was, think of the kingpin from Marvel in real life, that's him.
Who is this again?
Carmine Galante is what they base Carmine Falcone on in DC Comics, and the Kingpin with the Magia, which is the Mafia in Marvel Comics. That's a real person. He was in jail, but he was still running stuff from jail. And Jimmy Hoffa's in the same prison. They were overheard by a fellow prisoner discussing a contract killing of Robert F. Kennedy.
Wow. And Hoffa, he was mob too, right? But signed up, but he was tied in with the unions.
Teamsters, all that. He was total.
I don't know his story that well.
He's probably the second most famous mobster after Al Capone is Jimmy Hoffa.
Really?
I don't know. To me, I know all these people, but I don't know like who the public kind of knows. They've heard of Hoffa, they've heard of Capone. Some of them have heard of Lansky.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably, he's not as mainstream as he should be when he was like one of the head bosses. But.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Giancana ought to be famous, but I don't think he is. Roselli should be, but he is, like, among mob researchers.
People that study the
those
mob
are big
know him,
names.
yeah.
But among the general public, I don't think they are.
Yeah, I don't study the mob, so I don't know. I'm in Vegas, so I should know the mob a little better, having fought with the UFC and and everything.
Fertitta brothers, man.
They treated me great, by the way. Like I say, Lorenzo was good to me. So.
Everyone says the mob ran Vegas better than the state.
Yeah, I liked Lorenzo. Like, he always was. He always took care of me, and so I'm not going to say anything negative about him. But his family is definitely powerful family.
Well, don't ask him about Hank Greenspun.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I won't be doing that. I'm not asking him too many questions.
No.
Nor will I say anything about
there
him.
You have it, May of 1968. So a month or less than a month, depending when in May. But in May of 1968, you have discussions of contract killing on Kennedy. Now, that doesn't mean they did it, because the Mafia would talk about killing Kennedy.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they hate them? Like, of course they want to. That doesn't mean they went through with it. But when you look at everything else, back to John Alessio and his lawyers and Thane and all of that, then it's definitely them. The fact that witnesses are being harassed, and then you have testimony being changed. You have the physical evidence being destroyed, like the forensic, like the door frames, and they knocked down the whole hotel. Like, and the acoustic evidence comes out. Meh. Hey, there's 13 shots. Nobody cared. Yeah, doesn't matter. The witnesses are all saying the same thing. The coroner is saying it. You have chemical tests. You have burn marks on the body. So you have like physical proof that the shots were from right next to him. Who's right next to him? Witness firing his gun. Thane Caesar. He just happens to work for the mob. And all the lawyers also work for the mob. Yeah. And nothing to see here. Then Sirhan himself. He worked at the San Anita racetrack. He also worked at the Del Mar racetrack, which those are this deep in mafioso.
Is it?
And in 1966, he got recruited to work at the Corona horse breeding farm by Frank Donaramas. He's a mobster from New Jersey. His real name was Henry Ramistella. And Sirhan was in debt. And he's got this weird notebook with messages in it, messages that at the time looked legitimate, but kind of look goofy now. They look like what Hollywood's idea of a crazy person was at the time. It's kind of like if you've ever seen the movie The Shining, the typewriter, or Jackson Dalton, like. We know that's not how.
That's not. Yeah,
behave,
I've known crazy people.
They would write like,
exactly.
"Oh, they just wrote kill, RFK,
No,
RFK,
that's
Robert
not what crazy people
stuff
do,
like that,
yeah.
all over a notebook and diagonally and upside down and whatever, like a madman from Hollywood."
Yeah.
But this, I mean, he would write stuff like, "Don Rama, please pay to the order of 5," and like stuttering in writing.
Yeah, I know crazy people.
When
people go crazy, they don't do that.
This is just like planted for sure to make it look like, look, Sirhan's just a nut, and he's got to kill RFK down in a notebook, which shows he's schizophrenic and da 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 da. Frank Donaramas, why did he bring him on the farm and put him? They got him, they put him in a taxi with a newspaper about Israel and Palestine.
That's just so ridiculous they added that.
It's just when they blamed it on a Palestinian Christian, like anyone that researches this stuff every time, it's just too on the nose.
Too on the nose.
And come on. And then you look, the relations to Cohen and Alessio and these people.
Seems overwhelming. It's just the amount of evidence is insane. Can't believe I've never heard any of this. The JFK stuff I've heard, but more recently I guess, but this one seems to be pretty much buried still, and his own son just kind of ignores it for whatever reasons. I don't know if it's blackmail
I
or
think
bribery
his son knows Thane shot his dad.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna know it now. I wish I could talk to him.
I think he said something before about it not being the guy. I can't remember. I could be wrong about that, but I saw it.
He doesn't think it was Sirhan. He was gonna meet Thane Caesar. Thane Caesar went and retired in the Philippines. He died like 3 years ago, and I think RFK was set to visit him, and then he died before he got there.
I think something like this did happen. I think I remember seeing something about that. So like he knows that that's not who killed his father and his uncle. I think he probably knows, but he sits there and just praises Israel still, and I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know what he knows about his uncle, but come on, like look, the people covering up both events are the same people, and there's only one faction with that level of power.
No, and I feel like RFK
But
knows.
I think that the newspaper about Israel and Palestine deserves a 40 beheaded babies award.
No,
because it was just
so over the top
and
ridiculous.
Too much.
Oh, we got our motive, guys.
I'm gonna show up to an assassination with a rolled up paper in my back pocket about Palestine.
It's just so over the top. They can't help it. It's like
I know. It just you got a lot of shady bastards that were at the hotel were also at Daley Plaza, and they 100% did not like either of the Kennedys, but they went there to see Robert anyway, as if they knew something was going to go down.
They wanted to watch him die.
Yeah, they knew they wanted to be at the event. They wanted to be at the show. And so it's just, and Thane, I mean, he had him by the arm. He's leading them in, and he's right up against them, like as a shield almost. Mm-hmm. And when the shots fire, all right, there's the diversion. Bah, bah. Sirhan gets tackled. Thane, do, just starts firing from right next to him. He pulls it from, because there's a French newspaper that said he fired from the hip like a Western. So he just like pulled it out of the holster and shot. That's probably the one that went through his jacket. And he just went do like that. Mm-hmm. Got him in the neck, and got him in the head.
It's crazy. This has just been
and left burn marks. I mean, god damn. And then they fired Thomas Noguchi for reporting that they found the burn marks. Yeah. And then they shot up William Harper's car for agreeing with him.
Yeah, it seems pretty overwhelming. And like I said, I do remember seeing Robert Kennedy saying, it wasn't Sirhan, it was the guy. So he knows, but for the most part, he just stays quiet and goes along with it. Must be infuriating.
The thing is, if I say Gene Caesar shot RFK, people are like, who's that? Say exactly. Yeah. That's why it doesn't matter. It's like with this Epstein list. Like I got it all. I've released this 109 times.
And no one pays
attention. Got all these perpetrators. But a lot of them, they wouldn't know them because they're just boring hedge fund managers and bankers and stuff. Not everyone. Some of these names are very knowable, but they don't know Leon Black or they don't even know Jean-Luc Bernal. And he got arrested.
He seemed to go after big money people and tech people, not just celebrities. It seemed like with Epstein, that was a big. The
goal was to steal science and technology, research and development, and give it to the Israelis. And one of the things he would do is they were overtaking the donor class. Why would you bribe a politician or a judge when if you get the donor class, you get them all? Mm-hmm. Because they already listen to the donor class. And that is not only with politicians, that's also with universities. Because a lot of private companies will pair up with universities for R&D. Grad students are the new indentured servants, because universities can get government grants. So it's a kind of way of paying for it. And they get privy to all the trade secrets. So if you can force Bill Gates to give a multi-million-dollar donation through Joy Ito to MIT, hypothetically, on behalf of Epstein now has access to whatever they come up with.
Yeah, that's right. Bill Gates was with Epstein. He was there a few times, correct? Or
yeah, like if hypothetically Bill Gates stayed late in the night and wrote an email about it, about a very attractive woman and her daughter, the Dubins, as he stayed late in the night at Epstein's rape mansion in New York, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that same
problem
mansion.
is you can say all this stuff and it doesn't matter. The public has to hear it from Tucker Carlson or some authority.
And Candace Owens, Tucker's starting to dabble a little bit. He knows what's going on. He's just, taking his time, and I hope he pushes more because he definitely knows what's going on.
Yeah, and Candace knows some of the major super famous names, but she didn't have this list.
Yeah.
And I've gone over it. I went on this man named Sean Atwood. I did 9.5 hour interview going over all these bastards. And every single interview, there's no repeat information. It was just like, keep going. So I've been researching that since 2007. Mm-hmm. And then when he got rearrested in 2019, it's weird because I just written about it
earlier. That's crazy.
In May, again, because I periodically I was like kind of giving up on it. Mm-hmm. And I just mentioned it again. And I mentioned this story of Seth Tobias and the hedge fund managers that are getting murdered and drowned in their own pool.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. And that I put that up. I'd written it a long time ago, but I put it up again on my new website because I had it on a forum, and then I put it just like a post. And like 11 days later, Epstein got arrested again. Wow. And that whole thing started up. And people got interested in it. And I said, there's no way he's going to live. There's no way this can go to court. There's no way. And then when he died, I got a Skype message that says they got him. And I knew exactly what that meant. And I was...
Do you think he killed himself?
Building that map that's on the wall, right, this Epstein crime map. I was drawing it out on poster board and found out they had killed him. And I just put the marker down. I was like, God damn it. I hope they catch Maxwell. And they did. They caught Maxwell and they caught Burnell. And I actually said on air where she was hiding and got that right too.
Wow.
And I said in Burnell was in France, and he was, and they got him. And still... Brunel died in prison, so that didn't go anywhere either. Maxwell had a big, long trial, which should have been bigger than the OJ trial, and it wasn't. He got zero new information out of that.
The news doesn't want to cover it.
The news doesn't want to cover it because it goes back to the Untouchables.
And the news is tied in. That story got, I mean, as you know, that story, there was a news anchor that's been trying to cover it for forever and was buried, you know. I forget who, but there was like a mainstream ABC girl was trying to cover the story, and they're just like, nope.
Yeah, Donna Roback, I think you're talking about.
I think that's
we had
correct.
everything. We had Prince Andrew, Clinton, we had it, and they said, no, we're going to lose access to Will and Kate. That wasn't the reason.
No, exactly. No way that was the real reason. It just happened
Just report on Clinton and leave Andrew out of it then. Like, no, that wasn't the reason. And she got fired for complaining about that.
Really? They fired her over that? That's crazy.
When that video came out, she didn't last long. She's the one that gave the softball interview to Hunter Biden. And look, and okay, the Bidens are mobbed up. Big time. Yeah. John Kerry and Joe Biden, Whitey Bulger, like that whole mob syndicate in the Northeast.
They're tied in with that scene?
Very, very tied in. Well, they're running their own stuff. And the Bidens bought property on Water Island, just north of Little St. Jeffreys. And, you know, Peter Nygaard had his own little operation out there in the Bahamas, raping women. You get Robert Miller doing that up in Canada. There are an amazing number of pedophile rings. Mm-hmm. And they don't get any attention. Even the other Jeffrey from Abercrombie and Finch, and I got a file here on that, of these people. Mike Jeffries and Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, they had a homosexual pedophile ring where they were, you know, forcing young Abercrombie and Finch models into acts and drugging them and giving them enemas, hot water enemas and things like it. And guess who hired him? Les Wexner.
Oh, Jesus.
The financier Jeffrey Epstein is the one that hired Mike Jeffries.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many of these blackmail operations are out there.
Because Les Wexner was the money conduit for Israel. That's how they paid them through him.
It's crazy, yeah. Every aspect.
He was their Omar Bayumi. You know, he was the middleman for that. The Mossad doesn't come and give you a suitcase of cash.
Yeah, he was like a high school math teacher. Then all of a sudden he had like private islands and jets.
Yeah, he went from high school math to Bear Stearns.
Mm-hmm. With no real, didn't really seem to really know much about finances.
And then Jamie Dimon.
Mm-hmm. But it makes you wonder how many of these operations are going on. I mean, I've seen they have them in the Middle East. They've been busted in like Syria before. So they also do this to other politicians. I mean,
there's a lot down south in Guatemala, Mexico.
I've heard some bad stuff about Guatemala sex trafficking. I'm going to have a guest on that's been down in Guatemala studying the sex trafficking. It sounds awful talking to him. It sounds very legit too, because I wanted to talk to him to make sure he wasn't like some crazy guy spouting out, and it seemed like he
Ryan
seemed very
Matos
on
covered
point.
That stuff, and I was on a space with him comparing notes. So, that's who I'm going to talk to.
The
Finders Cult did that too. They didn't have a smart kids school. It was child human trafficking. I almost want to say actual human trafficking, because like when you hear that word,
not like the Tates,
the most famous human traffickers, the Tates,
right.
they didn't even do it. But
isn't it?
How about Robert Miller? Nothing.
Yeah, they take
Peter
a word
Nygaard?
like that.
Nothing.
It's terrible to take such a serious word and use it for a situation that's not actually trafficking. It's shameful they did that.
I know.
So now when we see real human trafficking in like Guatemala and these other places, everyone's just like, oh yeah, whatever. And it's like, no, they're actually taking like kids and shit and trafficking them. And I'm going to talk
organ trafficking. I don't know if people understand how evil some people in the world really are.
It's hard.
The Israeli state, they murder kids, they sell organs, they torture people, they rape prisoners.
Yep.
They do human medical testing on people. They've amputated people's legs and leave them in diapers and with their hands cuffed. They call them the worm people. They remove their legs and let them shit on themselves. They murdered a Palestinian boy where they dumped gasoline down his throat and lit him on fire from the inside out. They've walled people up and burned their house down. And then, of course, they're taking the property. They burn the olive trees and the farms. And if they don't bulldoze your house with you in it, they'll just move in and until you leave. Like, they just move in, and this is my living room now. God gave it to me. Like, the depravity of these little bastards, like, it's really satanic. They worship a deity that instructs and commits genocide himself and kills all the firstborn of Egypt and sends fiery snakes to bite people for complaining about being hungry. He takes human sacrifices, animal sacrifices, demands obedience and worship or will burn you for infinity, eats people with the ground. Like, this is deities are reflections of the culture that invent them. And you've got a sick culture that worships essentially a genocidal maniac in Yahweh that believes that they're superior, divides the whole earth into them, us and them, the Jews and the Goyim, who they treat like animals and cattle. They think Jesus Christ is boiling in shit and semen. They don't teach love thy neighbor, it's conquer thy neighbor. Like this, the fruits of such a belief system have very low odds of producing a healthy society.
Yeah, it's just like so evil. It's hard to grasp that it could be true, especially as Americans. We've been fed non-stop propaganda of.
Yeah, you can't. I think like innocent people cannot even fathom the Machiavellian nature of others.
Yeah.
For a tree to reach heaven, it has to have roots that go down to hell. You almost have to have had some bad experiences, and because you can't fathom, like, why would you kill a kid?
Yeah.
Why would you kill a baby?
Yeah,
they'll kill them all.
Right. I almost wish I hadn't looked at some of these Telegram channels. And then you see the Israeli ones when they're celebrating and laughing and making jokes about, oh, we blew both her arms out. Now she can't hug her father. Ha ha. You're just like, wow, man, this is just, it's just hard to.
They're sitting there like making like makeup on their mouths so they're toothless and stuff, and just making fun of people for starving to death. Because they're like, that's our land. God gave it to us.
Taking boat tours where they take their families to watch children get bombed. It's just
tourism.
like
they would do that
stuff
in the previous assaults on Gaza too, and then they do it at the West Bank as well. But where you could actually pay to go down with snipers and watch them shoot people. Jeez. Every March for Peace in 2018, they would come up at the wall and demonstrate. And Israelis would just shoot a few of them.
They were targeting men in their dicks too, just to take their manhood away.
Jerry Seinfeld, I think, went down there. I'm like, did you get to shoot someone, or you just watch them? Like, how much does it cost to get to shoot a Palestinian?
They would probably I bet they would let them shoot one.
Not above them for Israelis to be like, if you pay $40,000, we'll let you shoot one of them.
Oh, for sure they would. And someone famous, I'm sure they would do it for free. Like
they have sex tapes of babies being raped to death, tortured to death. I've seen some stuff that I feel like I have PTSD from just, I can't get it out of my head. And I have nearly photographic memory, so I really don't want to look at that because I can't unsee it. And there's a little baby innocent on a table, and they go up and they'll just like pinch it and they start to cry. And then the other woman will comfort it, and then she'll slap it.
Jesus.
And then they keep doing this slowly. They don't even like just sit there. They just like little pinch here, a little pinch there. So it's screaming. And this baby's like totally defenseless. Its mouth is quivering, like just because these are the women that it expects to protect it.
Protect them, yeah, I know.
And they both turn on it and screaming at it and stuff, and they're laughing. Like the louder it cries, the more they get off on it.
No, that's just literally pure evil.
And then they start like twisting its ass and making purple marks, and it's just and it can't even cry after a while. It's just like stuttering to breathe and drool coming out of its face and tears all over it. This baby is just mortified, and then they start oil checking it, putting a finger up its butt and stuff, and beat the fuck out of this baby and leave it there dead.
Yeah, it's not
one of these babies lived too. And they would sell this stuff. You could buy it on the dark web where, it was in the tens of thousands of dollars. You can watch them torture a baby to death.
Just sick, disgusting people.
Some of them did it to their own, like, nephews and nieces and stuff too. I don't know if you remember the case of Mary Kay Letourneau, but she was related to Joseph Smits, the old IG and stuff, and she got knocked up by a 13-year-old student and stuff. But in that family, there was a case of a baby that ended up in the hospital with human hair woven around his penis so tight it nearly castrated it. Like this, the fucking depravity of these people are crimes you couldn't imagine anyone ever doing this to a baby. And it's like the more innocent it is,
the more they get off on
the
it.
better it is.
Yeah, there's like
the better the crime.
No evil worse than fucking with a baby or a child. And people, it seems
There's
so...
nothing more evil. There's nothing more evil than the state of Israel.
Yeah, I mean...
Even in empires past where they crucified people and all that, they didn't do the stuff that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff, it is public that they have torture centers and stuff. Like there was leaked videos of them gang raping a guy, and then remember they arrest the guys real quick.
They were made heroes.
Media. Yeah, they were made
heroes. They were made heroes.
Yeah, they went
for
on TV.
justifying raping prisoners and raping them with objects and things like hot iron and stuff.
Like hot irons and electric shocks in the ass. It's just like,
oh yeah,
like this
popping
is 100%. Yeah,
and
this stuff is 100% happening. This is not speculation. This is stuff they're doing, and this is our greatest ally. And we're the bad guys for pointing it out.
Well, it's anti-Semitic to be against torture.
Mm-hmm. No, it's wild. I think more people need to realize it's happening, but they're just delusioned and they can't open their eyes and see it. But yeah,
you see this,
right?
There really isn't. The largest resistance was the Hezbollah, like Shia Muslim resistance between Hezbollah and Syria, sort of Iraq, Iran, and Yemen. And Turkish-backed terrorists have taken over Syria, and now Israel has annexed more land in Syria. And these morons are sitting there cheering for that.
Yeah, this is actually a conversation I would like to get into depth with at some point. Right now I don't have time because that's such a whole another conversation, this whole... because you know a lot about the whole Syria situation.
We have to think a little bit of time, too, on just like how different the world would be if the Kennedys had lived, if either one of them had lived. Because Robert could have done what John would have done if he had, and he most likely would have been president. Nixon didn't want to lose again to a Kennedy, and these mob people ended up working for him. Nixon was a syndicate president, and that doesn't mean he was all bad. Like some of his decisions may have been good or whatever, but the way he got the power was through violence.
Do you have any hope for RFK, or think he's a lost cause?
He's a very intelligent person. No, he's not very. He's an intelligent person, at least. He knows better. And that's what makes it more sad, because he knows.
I know
he's
he
not
knows,
dumb.
exactly. I know he knows.
And it appears to me like he has to be compromised. But I don't know, because it's very hard to put myself in his shoes. I think that guy did not win the lottery. Like his father was murdered. His uncle was murdered. His wife killed herself. And he got some weird throat disease. So life's come at him pretty hard. So I'll give him a pass on a lot. But there's nothing more disturbing to me than to see that guy on his knees for Israel with the little Rabbi Shmuley behind him,
Yeah. It clearly doesn't match his worldview.
Knowing who killed his uncle. And really relates to Robert's death too, but in the larger picture. It's a very long story, but like they murdered both of the Kennedys.
I think he knows.
But then you look at his diary, because he cheated on his wife. He admits it. He was a sex addict.
Yeah.
And that sex addiction might be coping for his father being murdered and his uncle and having to see it over and over. I don't judge like that. I'm like, that's got to be a lot to go through. He may have coped through sex, but in his diary, instead of blaming himself like he should for not having self-control, he blames the women for tempting him.
Wow.
You temptress, blame the whore. Dude, just keep it in your pants. It's not that hard. But it
took me a while.
And
but
so
it's,
if you're a sex addict, you are ripe for a honey trap. And who would zero in on that quicker than anybody? I think the Israelis love it more than anything that Robert Kennedy's son is an Israeli cuck. Like that, they'll keep him alive, because that's even better than killing him, is to make him spread his cheeks for the faction that murdered his own family.
Yeah, and also he's so anti-war, but as soon as they mention Israel, he starts going, they're the world's most moral army, and starts like stuttering and getting
anti-Ukraine war because they want to pivot to Iran. That's all that is.
Whole another topic. Anyways, I got to wrap up pretty soon, but there's a ton of other rabbit holes we could go down. But let's, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
You can get these Fuck Israel shirts at antineocon.com.
Yep.
And you can read my Kennedy reports on Substack. It's ryandawson.org. And I would appreciate you joining that. It's free, but you can choose to sign up, and you do get stuff that I don't make public. But that's what keeps the lights on, because I'm not allowed on PayPal. I'm not allowed on Patreon. I'm not allowed on any social media other than Twitter. Well, Gab, I guess. But so you got to get some shirts, hats, get your End All Aid Israel coffee. The coffee's pretty good. It's maple syrup, citrus, and almond notes in it, if you like that. I don't know. It's more or less to get this package, though. That just looks nice sitting in your kitchen.
Boycott Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, Boycott Israel. We've got the Epstein maps, shirts, hoodies, all that stuff. That Numek map from the film I made is there, too. I put the films out. The films are free. And we just hope some portion of people get a map. Because you can't sell films anyway. People pirate them. But I feel like, even myself, sometimes I'll look at the Epstein map and realize something. It's hard to memorize all that, and maintain it. If you have a visual, oh man, look, he's related to this and did. It's good to have that. We've got them. We have that Biden crime map. He's out of office, whatever. But a lot of the other people on it are not, and it's way worse than just the Burisma deal. It's
good to see how it's all connected.
Crimes in Romania, his crimes in China, like Beijing Biden. I mean, he got that nickname for a reason. So those are my sites: ryandawson.org and antineocon.com. That's where you can support us.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you. You dedicated 20 years of your life, if not more, to finding all this research. You're completely ostracized, ruined financially, hurt, but all this research is so important. All the stuff you've done helps people like me and the other guys.
Oh, and I'm hated by all sides. The Zionists hate my guts. The white nationalists hate my guts. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I just hear someone hates me. Fuck them. The white nationalist guys get mad because you got a Korean Korean girl. Oh no.
Oh yeah, whatever, man. Yeah, I have interracial sex.
Oh no.
It's and I reproduced.
Yeah, right. Oh, you actually have kids.
I went up the ladder.
They'll yell at you for not having kids and for having.
Well,
make sure
according
they
to
won't have
their own
any.
sort of like reductionist biological bell curve arguments, East Asians are smarter than Caucasians anyway. So I don't buy into that crap. But that according to their own rules or whatever their frame, then you should all be with East Asians.
You could be making a super race.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you, man. Cool. Thanks for having me.